We got to abolish ICE.
Did you guys hear that? I just want to make sure you guys heard that. Say that again.
I'm honestly sick of the career politicians who run our city. I'm sick of maintaining the status quo and maintaining institutional power.
You seem like someone who isn't trying to be a politician.
If the police are the ones that made the mistake, they should be paying for their mistake. One of the first things I will do when I'm in office is fire Chief Mamdani.
Nice.
A lot of families right now, their breadwinners cannot go to work or are being impacted because of the ICE raids. That's ridiculous.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to the Mary Houlihan Show. Today we are joined by Rae Huang.
Hi, everybody.
Rae, you're running for mayor of Los Angeles.
I am.
What's your deal? Who are you?
Yes, who am I? I ask that question to myself every morning, actually. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
So I am a local mom and community organizer and pastor who lives here in Los Angeles. I am a single mother. I have 2 kids. And I think that is what has informed me about why I'm running. It's been so hard to make ends meet here in Los Angeles for myself and my family, for the community that I love here and serve. And so honestly, I'm running because I just want to make this city actually livable and affordable so that way my kids and I can thrive here in Los Angeles, because it's been so hard. But I love my city. I love our people. We have ideas and solutions, but we have not been able to see them through. And so part of my running is to be able to create that political will to see our community-led solutions come into practice in City Hall.
So what's your platform?
Yeah. So my platform is around this idea that we can actually change the structures and transform our structures to make this city more livable and affordable for everybody. And the way that I want to do that is through, like I said, these community created solutions. These are ideas and solutions that we have already put in place and have models and examples in other cities where it's been successful, and it's time we carry it out. And so those are rooted around 4 different areas. The first is around making housing and homes for all. So that way we prioritize people in homes and not profit. And the way that that looks is by expanding affordable, permanently affordable housing for everybody through a term which is pretty jargony, but it's called social housing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's housing that is permanently off the speculative market and owned either by the community or the public, as well as finding more avenues to ensure that home ownership happens not to the developer, but rather we create avenues for residents to be able to have the first priority to buy their homes instead of a landlord coming in and buying it and then renting out for more money.
Mm-hmm.
Another area around housing for all is ensuring that we have strengthened tenant protections so that people can stay home and stay housed and they don't fall into further instability or into homelessness. The second area in my platform is around creating an economy for the people. What does that mean? What does that look like? It means, again, that we are supporting our small businesses and local economy so that they can thrive. A way we can do that, for example, is by bringing and ushering in a public bank. There's already in City Hall a motion to do a study around a public bank in Los Angeles. I want to be able to progress and make sure that that becomes a solution for our city, so that when our small businesses, when even small production studios need investment, that they're using our local bank, which then ensures that the interest and everything is reinvested back into our community, and it can even support infrastructure programs and plans and even our education.
That sounds smart. Why doesn't everywhere do that?
Well, North Dakota actually has had a public bank since 1917
Mm-hmm.
and 1919, I believe. And it's been extraordinarily successful, and that's a red state.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, that just freaking makes sense. If you take out a loan and you're going to be paying interest every month, wouldn't you want it to go to your freaking city and not go to JP Morgan Chase?
Yeah, I don't think our Wall Street, corporations need their pockets lined further.
They're doing fine.
Yeah, they're doing great. So that is the beauty of a public bank, is it ensures that we're investing in us.
Yeah.
And the third area of my platform is rooted around a clean and green infrastructure. we need to move into the 21st century, ensuring that with climate change that we are creating a sustainable future for Los Angeles. That means expanding our transit lines. That means making buses fast and free. Why free? Because if you make it free, immediately 30% more people will be riding transit, because if you're going out for a drink, instead of paying for that Uber, or instead of driving home, which is not safe, you can just jump on the bus and not worry about how you're going to get there and making sure that you're going to get home safely. And then the fourth piece of my platform is around public safety, real public safety. And that is the belief and the idea that crime is a result of people not feeling safe, or when they are unstable, when you're not secure, you're going to turn to things, or you're going to make decisions that don't necessarily benefit you and others around you. And so the way that we can make sure that we lower our crime rates is by ensuring that people have the things that they need. They have the resources, they have enough homes, they have good jobs, they have education, they feel secure. And that is by investing into our services that actually provide people with what they need.
Yeah, that's cool. So you're talking about reducing crime by investing in communities so that they don't resort to crime. And I think sometimes people, they have like a knee-jerk reaction to that kind of thinking, and they're like, no, why should they get stuff? But I went to your Canvas kickoff a couple weeks ago, and I noticed the person who was leading the canvassing, they told a personal story about someone in their family getting murdered, and that, the person went to prison, but it's not like it healed anything for this person and their family.
Yeah.
And so even someone like that could say, like, yes, this is a horrible thing we went through, but we would have much rather this person had all the services they need and not get into a position where they would be acting recklessly with the gun or that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly. I think we need to turn our government into one that's not reactive to something that's happened, but rather be proactive about creating systems that support people with the needs that they have now. And we need to change our structures to be able to support that progress. And so one of that ways is actually through ensuring that we have a big social safety net, especially in this season when our federal administration is making choices and cutting funding for basic needs that people have, like health and like education, and ensuring that we can provide those needs to begin with.
You seem like someone who isn't trying to be a politician. So that seems good. Like when you say that you're going to make buses fast and free, I'm like, yeah, she'll probably do that. And like, we'll see if it works. Right?
Yeah.
I guess something that people are sometimes confused about is like, what can a mayor actually do? Like, can you, when you're elected mayor, say, okay, the buses are free now, and then they're free now?
Yes. So the way that our system is in Los Angeles is that the mayor works in tandem with city council. The city council works on the laws, and the mayor basically enacts them and works to ensure that the city is functional and functioning. But one of the powers that the mayor has is actually determining who gets to sit on different boards. And one of them is the Metro Board. And so I can actually help determine who I will make sure that I put into leadership, people who agree with what my goals are and intentions are, which is to make buses fast and free. And one of the things I think it's worth mentioning to folks is that the question of, well, how do you pay for it, right? You saw, for example, Mayor Mamdani also calling for fast and free buses. We're doing it here in Los Angeles. What does that mean? What does that look like? Well, folks may not know this, but the cost that it takes to pay for the collection of fares in Los Angeles is about the same number of how much money we're actually making in fares right
That's
now.
crazy. Did you guys hear that? I just want to make sure you guys heard that. Say that again.
Yeah, so the expense of fare collection is about the same cost of or same amount of money that we're making right now, that we're profiting in fare collection. They cancel each other out.
Yes.
So why are we continuing this?
Oh, let's make
This
them
practice.
free.
Exactly. We should just make it free. Not only does it make it, of course, affordable because it's now free for people to just use transit,
Mm-hmm.
it actually makes our buses and our transit safer. How? It's because the greatest number of altercations that leads to different physical altercations that happen is oftentimes between the bus driver asking for fare collection,
Oh, okay.
asking for the fares and talking to the person who's trying to get on the bus and saying, you can't get on this bus unless you pay. And then that's usually about 90% of the time. It's a very, is when there's an altercation. And so if we actually get rid of that piece, then you'll have fewer physical altercations. And actually, when you talk to bus drivers during the pandemic, we actually had 2 years when we actually made buses free.
Mm-hmm.
And bus drivers said it was far safer and they felt safer actually driving their buses and being able to do their job during those 2 years. We're also paying so much money right now in the in carrying out the fare collection process, in the sense that we are paying for security and for police to actually go into the buses to enforce that, the fare collection. And so that would also result in us saving a ton of money and also not have to have the police and other security being on our buses. Finally, another way to make it safer is people feel safer when it's a busy bus. That is the reality. A busy bus is a safer bus.
That's true.
A busy train is a safer train. So the more that people will ride it and have incentive to ride it means that it's actually safe for everybody because they're watching out for each other. And also it's an opportunity for us to build community and make us more interconnected as a city across the city and of course across the county as we're connecting to other parts of the county.
So it was already free for 2 years during the pandemic. It can be free again. It's not a crazy radical idea.
Yeah.
Okay. The main thing I hear people complain about
Yes.
in Los Angeles is police payouts.
Yes.
So sometimes police officers are rough with people and then they get sued. The city has to pay. Where does that money come from? Taxpayers. Nobody wants to do that. So what are you going to do to change that?
I think one of the best forms of accountability for the police is that if the police are the ones that made the mistake, they should be paying for their mistake out of their own budget.
Yes.
That is the kind of accountability that we need to see. And it should not be taxpayers using our own money. One of the things I should highlight is that even though we had one of the lowest, we had less officers over this last year, we also had a higher number of violence, right? And so it doesn't mean the police actually there was more assaults by the police and deaths by the police hands, even though we had a lower number of police officers. So just because we have a higher police number doesn't mean that it's necessarily safer. We've actually had more safety in the city over the last year than previous years, even though we had a smaller number of officers. And so these are the kind of statistics and research we should be looking at, is that just because you have more police doesn't mean that the city is safer. And when you do have, and also that we have seen too many incidents, especially recently, with the fact that there are high school students being assaulted by the police who are protesting peacefully, right, around the ICE raids. So we need to hold the police accountable, and we need to be having this discussion. Our Black and Brown communities have been talking for years about the fact that they have not felt safe with more LAPD. And they have been inviting us for years to do something about that. I think it's time that we have a deep conversation and start to move towards thinking about what that means for our city. And I think that means lowering our police budget, putting more of our money into resources, and also really having a good look at our LAPD and seeing what corruption is there and holding them accountable and having different standards for and expectations for our LAPD. And that includes expanding our unarmed crisis response program that we've started here that has been very successful in Los Angeles over the last few years. And we need to expand that further.
That sounds good. Yeah, I'm thinking if I'm a parent and I have a teen and they're having a mental health crisis, I'm scared to call the police. I would love an unarmed person to come.
Yeah, absolutely. Most calls to 911 are not because there is a violent episode.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, oftentimes what happens is if the police comes, it tends to escalate the situation.
Yes, yeah.
So what we need to do is take a good look at how the percentage of calls that go into 911 and say, are they mental health related? If, for example, 60% of those calls are mental health related, then we need to be increasing resources for mental health counselors and resources. If 40% of those calls are related to physical health, then we need to increase those services there.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just about the facts.
Yeah. Anecdotally, one time I saw a homeless person. He had cut himself and he was bleeding a lot. Mm-hmm. I called 911 and they sent, and I said, I think we need like EMT or something. This guy's bleeding a lot. And then the police came and I was like, oh, why are you guys here? We don't need you. We need EMS. I was being polite, but I was saying like, oh no, we need like medical people. Yeah. And they told me that, that's just the bureaucracy of it. It's required for police to come first. Yeah. And then that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone's bleeding out and we're like waiting for the police to say, okay, now EMS can come.
Right, exactly. It should be the other way around. Yeah. And so we can change these things. Mm-hmm. I think that's one of the things I've been really excited about in my campaign and my messaging is that we have the ability to change what we've always had. We don't have to be stuck in what we've been doing. Mm-hmm. We need to evolve as a society. We need to evolve as a city, which means things have changed. Let's change too. Let's begin to transform our city to meet the needs we have now. If we stay stuck, we will never progress into the future that our children are counting on for us to provide.
And again, that's why I love that you're not like a normal politician, because like some people, if they want to be in office for a long time and mayor is just one step of their journey.
Exactly.
They're not going to be making these bold changes because they want to be friendly with everyone else who's trying to stay in office. Yeah. So you're an interesting person. You're an organizer, but you're also a pastor. Mm-hmm. Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, sure. So I came into this work starting off, actually, I wanted to be a teacher. And so I was teaching in the classroom as an intern. I was in college at this point, so I was doing my studies for it and getting my, practicum. And in the classroom, I remember that there was a student, the only student of color, actually, in the whole class. And she was struggling the most academically. And my heart was with her. I really wanted to support her. And what I realized that it wasn't about the mathematics she wasn't getting. It was about the fact that her family was far more under-resourced than any other family in that classroom. Yeah. And so that was what got me realizing, you know what, I really want to support this student and other students like her. Mm-hmm. And so that resulted me in actually becoming a youth director at a church. And in that church, I was able to really participate and be in relationship with the families who were under-resourced. And they were primarily Black and Brown communities and Asian community, Southeast Asian communities and families. And they were immigrants, and many of them lived in the projects. This was in a neighborhood in Boston. Mm-hmm. And so in working with them, I realized my church was starting to get involved in community organizing work. And I realized that it wasn't just about providing these families with social services. It was actually about changing the systems that were not supportive of these families getting the resources that they needed. And it was in some ways preventing them from being able to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
For example, at the time, we were working around the Romney care. If you remember,
Yes, yeah.
Obamacare, the healthcare system, we actually had an affordable healthcare measure in Massachusetts first in the state. And so we were working around that. And one of the reasons we were doing that was because if you made over a certain amount of money, then you lost your statewide healthcare. But what was challenging was that then these families had to decide, should I stay in poverty so I can continue to get healthcare? Or if I make more money, then I lose my healthcare.
Exactly.
So they couldn't, were forced to make a decision to be able to provide for their families. And it resulted in them just being stuck. And so that was my first campaign, getting involved in community organizing work. And I saw how effective it was when we were able to pass, affordable healthcare in Massachusetts. And that was my first journey. So I was working in a church, I was doing community organizing, and Dr. King, Martin Luther King Jr., was a huge hero of mine. And so that was what brought me into this line of work and why I've been doing social justice education, racial justice organizing for so long. Fast forward here in Los Angeles, I got involved with, so a little bit about my history is when I moved to Los Angeles over a decade ago, I started working for CLUE, which stands for Clergy and Laity United for Economic Justice. The J is silent in CLUE. Mm-hmm. And that's the joke that we have. And these are clergy, these are, pastors and rabbis and imams working together collaboratively to be able to walk alongside workers fighting for a fair contract, walking alongside immigrants who were being detained and deported, and being able to change our systems for the better, speaking out about it, but also walking in solidarity. And that's eventually I moved into housing, and now I work as a deputy director for Housing Now. It's a statewide housing justice coalition in the state. We have over 350 organizations that we bring together to support changing and doing advocacy work and organizing to change the housing crisis that we have in the state. And while I've been doing that on the side, I've been volunteering in my neighborhood, just as a local neighborhood organizer, in being able to support my neighbors. And it was through that work that I realized how much we were not able to progress as a city, because even though the communities were coming up with solutions, even though we were doing the mutual aid and support, our political leaders did not have the courage to actually create the will and listen to their members and listen to the residents to change the systems. And so eventually I just got sick of it all. And I thought, you know what? We need to have more courageous leaders in this moment. And so, and that's why I'm here today. And I'm honestly sick of the career politicians who run our city. I'm sick of maintaining the status quo and maintaining institutional power. I think we need to disrupt it all. And so I'm excited about doing this. I still have no desire to be a career politician, but I am 100% down to disrupt the status quo, to disrupt our institutional power, and finally put people first over profit in this city.
Nice.
Thanks.
That rules. Yeah, I feel like a lot of I don't know. What do I want to say, Elizabeth? Young online folks. I feel like they don't like church, or it's sometimes it's fair. People do have religious trauma, or maybe they grew up in a church that was not welcoming to queer people. And that's understandable, but like throughout every movement, there's been coalitions of clergy and imams and rabbis and all these people fighting for anti-war and fighting for housing and all these things. I consider myself a Christian. My uncle was a priest, and he did a lot of social justice work. And I was told when I was a kid that he would like bust down, in the 60s, for like civil rights actions. And you see the photos of the guys with the Catholic collars standing with Dr. King. I always loved that kind of stuff. And like, church gets bad press, understandably.
It's warranted in a lot of situations and
Yeah, of
cases. So I
course,
totally
of
understand.
course. But I feel really like inspired in this political moment that like more Christians should speak up and say, I'm a Christian and I believe in XYZ, because like these far right evangelical Christians have totally changed what it means to be a Christian, and we should take it back from them. What the hell?
Let's take it back. I agree.
And yeah, it's been really inspiring to see like in Chicago and Minneapolis and other places, you see these Catholic priests like protecting immigrants and standing up to ICE and this kind of stuff. When you're mayor, which you will be, what you gonna do about ICE?
Oh my gosh. Well, we gotta abolish ICE. As mayor, I won't be able to do it because it's run by the federal government. But what we can do is every single thing in our power to block ICE from kidnapping and killing our own people. And ways that we can do that is we can enforce safety zones where we have if we really want to bring back trust in our LAPD, that means the LAPD needs to work for us, for the people. That means the LAPD needs to protect and serve its residents. And so I would love the LAPD to be able to carry out the laws of our city as a sanctuary city by blocking and preventing ICE from coming into our neighborhoods and kidnapping our own people. And we can enforce that, of course, by ensuring that they're not going to be masked. They have to show their ID. We can provide also other forms of safety by mutual aid right now is happening by our communities. This is one of the sad things, both beautiful and sad things right now about our city. Because ICE has been kidnapping and attacking our own people, Angelenos have been taking it into their own hands to protect their neighbors. We've been carrying whistles. I carry a whistle with me now. We've been going to know your rights, education, trainings, so that way we can share with others and our neighbors and learning for ourselves what our rights are. We've been taking it into our own hands to protect us. We protect ourselves. We protect us. This is our neighborhood. This is our city. It's time our city leaders also take in that same invitation to protect its city residents. So the police, all of our departments need to be participating in that too, so that mutual aid is not just happening from neighbor to neighbor. Mutual aid is being supported by city through our resources. We have a program called Represent LA. It's been defunded over the last couple of years. And Represent LA is a program that provides legal representation for people who are immigrants to be able to protect themselves and to protect their rights. And so we should be putting more of our funding and our resources into that program. We should also be, another idea is to be able to support the small businesses who are being impacted right now because of ICE. For example, I actually had a roundtable with small business owners 2 weeks ago, and we talked about the fact that I thought our small businesses were going to talk more about the permitting, restructuring, so that way it doesn't cost so much money to be able to sell alcohol in the restaurant. It doesn't cost that much money to be a hairstylist. And those are things that need to happen. I thought that we would talk about that. Instead, what I heard from all these small business owners was that ICE was impacting their business because their workers were too afraid to go to work, and that their clients were too afraid to go out to be able to buy their products and buy their services. And so this is across the board. The city needs to be able to protect our people in a comprehensive way. And it's not just an impact to our immigrant communities, it's an impact to our whole economy. One more way is that we do need to ensure eviction protections for our undocumented and mixed status immigrant families.
Yeah.
A lot of families right now, their breadwinners cannot go to work or are being impacted because of the ICE raids. And so we need to keep them stably housed. And that will ensure that we don't grow our numbers of homelessness, and also just to ensure that, again, we create the stability and the security and the safety that our families need and require.
So it sounds like a lot of this stuff is protecting immigrants, but is there anything we can do to block ICE to keep them out?
I think for myself, as a mayor, I would be 100% advocating to abolish ICE and would be working with lawmakers on a state and federal level to ensure that that happens. I will say that one of the most important things I want people to know about my campaign is that I can't win the things that we need by myself. If I'm elected as mayor and we stop the protests and we stop the advocacy in November, we're like, great, Rae's mayor, we're going to be good. Nothing will happen.
Right.
What it requires is everybody has to be involved in this advocacy work to change our systems. And so I am committed to vocalizing, to advocating, to working every single resource and network I have to fight to protect us from ICE, to protect us from things beyond ICE, that the federal government has been bringing down to our localities. But also, we need every single voice and person out there doing the same thing alongside me. We are a democracy. I believe so strongly in co-governance, which means that we have to do this together as a team. And so that is one of the ways that I'd like to see this happen, is by creating more assemblies, co-governance assemblies, where we have more residents being involved in shaping and determining and making recommendations on laws, on programs, and on our departments, so that we can be strengthening as a city, and also on the things that we should be doing as a municipality in terms of our advocacy work at a federal level.
I think in Philadelphia, I want to say, I might be getting these titles wrong. I think the sheriff of Philadelphia and the DA both made statements, like anti-ICE statements. We want ICE to stay out of Philadelphia. And that was really interesting to me, because I feel like any kind of police, we always expect them to be super conservative. So it sounds like for this to be like politically tenable to actually abolish ICE, or at least keep ICE out of Los Angeles, it would, and unfortunately this doesn't sound cool, you would kind of have to work with police and get police to agree that ICE is making things more dangerous. But of course that's not cool. We want to say ACAB and cops stink, but you're going to be the mayor. You're going to have to work with these people.
I will tell you that one of the first things I will do when I'm in office is fire Chief McDonnell.
Nice.
Chief McDonnell does not follow the laws of the city or the laws of the state.
He was the one saying that even though there's a law that ICE has to wear masks, he wasn't going to enforce it.
Exactly. And so we need to have our chief of police should be keeping the laws of the city and the state.
Of course.
And right now, the police has way too much power. There's no accountability system. This is why you might have seen actually recently that I was at the Charter Reform Commissioners meeting.
Yes.
And while I was speaking, the mic was shut off and I couldn't finish my public comment. I think I only got about 2 seconds in. But the reason I was there is because I was actually asking and calling for police reform to be a part of the charter reform process. Right now, there are no powerful levers to keep the police accountable. One of the levers that we can put into the charter reform process is to allow the city council and the mayor to be able to fire and appoint the police chief. Right now we can appoint, but we can't fire them. There's no accountability. And so, and there's many other reforms as well that need to be enacted. And I won't go into the details of that. But I think what's really important here is that we need, one of the things residents across Los Angeles are calling for is more accountability. Accountability on every single level. Accountability of the mayor, accountability of the city council members, so that way our budgets are more transparent and we can see what decisions we're making with our money, because money tells us exactly where we stand, right? And also accountability of the police. And so I think this charter reform process, not to detract us from talking about the LAPD, but I think this is all interconnected, is that we need to be, again, going back to systems change, we need to be transforming our systems, the way that we're structured, to ensure that we're moving towards a city that can actually be fully functional again, or be functional, period. I don't know that we were that functional in the past. So, but to be more functional than what it's been.
And I want to go back to the social housing stuff.
Yeah.
How is that going to happen? How is it going to get funded? Where is the social housing going to get built?
Yeah. So, okay, I'm going to try not to get too nerdy here about this, but social housing has been like a baby of mine for like the last 6 or 7 years. But social housing, and just to give you a little bit more background when I talk about social housing, is that I've actually been working on social housing here locally for a number of years by working with the Los Angeles Movement Lab. I've been working with, on a statewide level, I actually facilitate a social housing table under my current organization, where organizations across the state, where they have prioritized social housing as a solution to the housing crisis, all come together to figure out strategies of how we can expand our ability to win gains. And one of the successes of that table is we passed a bill, SB 555, which is a social housing study bill, to identify a plan and the revenue that we need to expand social housing at large in the state, so that we can actually see it as a solution. And I've worked with the Alliance for Housing Justice, which is a national coalition, where we were able to participate in co-sponsoring the Homes Act, authored by Senator Smith and AOC, to be able to, again, provide the infrastructure for social housing to expand on a federal level. So I just want to name that when I talk about social housing and other solutions, we're not talking about pie in the sky ideas. We're talking about things that are already happening across the country, across the state, and also in our city. So now let's get to the nitty gritty in the city. Here in Los Angeles, we have recently passed Measure ULA, United to House LA. That is a transfer tax on mansions. We call them mansions colloquially, but properties that are $5 million or more. So that way it goes into that transfer tax goes into a pot of money that pays for affordable housing. It pays for right to counsel, and it pays for right to counsel is counseling services, support, legal support for tenants who are facing eviction. And then lastly, it's also emergency funding for seniors who are experiencing houselessness or housing unstable. Also, that revenue is going towards social housing. So we have a specific pot of money going towards this program. Also, over the last couple of years, because I've been working with a coalition expanding social housing here in the city, we also have supported the progress of the Los Angeles Community Land Trust Coalition. So we have community land trusts that are growing rapidly across the city, who are able to be places where they can provide technical assistance and support with finding revenue to support more of our homes, more properties going into these into long-term permanent affordability by ensuring that they're community owned homes that are community owned. And so that way you can stabilize the land beneath it, but then the individuals and families can own the homes that are on these properties. And so this has been a huge growing success in our city, and I aim to expand it. We've seen success of social housing in Vienna, Austria. We've seen success of social housing in Colombia, in Hong Kong, many other countries across the world. I was in Dublin, Ireland last year, actually, on a panel talking about social housing in the US, where there are tons of countries where they've seen success of social housing stabilizing the markets of real estate.
Yes.
So that way it makes it more affordable for people to live. And by the way, social housing has very strong tenant protections and it's mixed income.
Mm-hmm.
So it allows for families to be able to thrive and feel stable. This is a solution that we need in our city and that we already are expanding, and it's time we kind of take it to the next level. And I'm excited to be able to expand that. We've seen it in Seattle, by the way. Please, those who are listening, go look up social housing in Seattle so you can see ways by which these solutions can take root here in our Los Angeles context as well.
I like what I'm hearing about that it's publicly owned, that it's city owned. I'm from New York, and oh my God, there's so much freaking bullshit there from real estate developers. In New York, we get told over and over, let's build this luxury building. Let's knock down these affordable, multi-unit buildings and build a luxury skyscraper. And it will lower rents. And people say, no, it won't. And then there's so much misinformation and people who think that they're genius economists when they're not. And they're saying, you guys are so stupid. If they build any housing, it's going to make the rent go down. And it's like, not if it's all luxury. And we saw all the time that rents would go up. And of course, rents are going to go up regardless because of inflation. The cost of everything is going to go up year to year. It's not going to go down. But we kept getting told by all these assholes in politics that don't worry about it, these luxury buildings. Well, hey, they also have market rate units, and market rate means $1,000 more than what the average person is paying.
Right.
And so I think this message about social housing is really important because people do not want to be hoodwinked. They don't want to say, oh, this person's pro housing, and then it's just like luxury units going up.
Right.
Yeah.
We need affordable housing now, not later, not down the road.
Exactly.
We need it now. And
that's their argument, is like, if we make all these units in 30 years from now, after those buildings depreciate and are all crappy, then it's like, okay, well, all the poor people in the city will have already moved out by then. So what the hell are you talking about?
We have not seen trickle down in economics happen.
It doesn't happen.
We've tried for decades now.
Yes.
This has been the selling point, right? It's trickle down economics. It's eventually it's gonna make it easier for us. But it's not. And why is it? It's because homes should be not for profit. Homes should be for people, right?
Yes.
So what do we need to change in the system to ensure that the homes are actually meant for people first? And look, market rate housing, developers are going to try and make as much money as they can. Landlords are going to try and make as much money as we can. What is the role of government? Is to regulate the market and regulate systems to ensure that there is at least the basic needs of humans are being met. We're not talking about a mansion for every person, although we'll take it. But I'm talking about, no, let's just make sure that housing is, if we truly believe the value that housing is a human need and a human right, just as water is a human right, just as clean air is a human right, just as good health is a human right, access to good health care is a human right, homes also need to be that way. What is the system? What is the pathway to ensure that then becomes the case? And that means we have to put investments into housing. Right now in the state, less than 2% of our state budget has been going to housing and homelessness since 2018. This last year, less than 0.4% of our state budget was being proposed for housing and homelessness. So if we do genuinely believe that housing is a human right, then we need to be investing in it. We used to have a lot more investment in housing. Then Reagan became president, and a lot of reasons why people don't like President Reagan is because of the fact that it was in his season that things began to change, which is that we began to divest in housing, and that's why we have so little housing left. And so we need to change that course. The other thing we need to do is we do need to have strengthened tenant protections. For example, I'm not sure how many people are aware of this, but if you rent in a single family home, there are 0 protections for your rent to go up. So that means if your landlord decided to raise your rent 20%, they could do that. It is lawful. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm very proud to have been a part of a coalition that worked to lower the statewide rent cap down to 10%. And we tried to lower it down to 5% this last year, but we couldn't get it through the finish line. We're going to try again over the next couple of years. And so we need to have strengthened tenant protections. That's the second way that we are going to be able to help solve our housing crisis. And then the third is we have to be able to regulate speculators coming in and buying up our housing.
Yes, especially after the fires.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're seeing so many developers coming in and buying homes. And the thing is, I know that there's this argument right now from a lot of YIMBYs that, well, we don't want to, prevent, developers coming in and buying a home and turning it into multifamily units. Of course, we want to be able to increase density and housing. I definitely disagree with what Mayor Bass did, which was she went backwards. At first, she had decided to rezone all of our land to be able so that we could actually develop more properties in single family zoning. So I definitely think we need to, reverse what she reversed, actually, which is we need to be able to change our land use policy. But also at the same time, we do want to ensure that our properties are also going towards the development of affordable housing.
Yes.
And so to give priorities to affordable housing developers, to give priorities to families who are buying their homes for themselves, and to give priorities to community land trusts. One of the ideas I have actually is to bring about a homeowner opportunity to purchase act. It gives first right of refusal to families by which they're buying their primary residence, so that way they can live in it for themselves. So that way it's not going to go to another landlord. It's not going to go, not somebody who is trying to, who wants to buy your second or third property.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
It's not going to go to a developer trying to flip, but it's going to go directly to the family who wants to live in that home. We should be giving priorities to those families, and we should be supporting that progress as well with resources and financial resources through a public bank, for example.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Well, you rock. You're not a career politician, and you don't take donations from any corporate places. No private prisons, no landlords, no real estate lobbies, no foreign lobbies, just regular schmegular people.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. And I one of the best parts about Los Angeles is we have one of the most generous matching grants actually in the country. So every dollar that a city resident donates to my campaign, it will be matched with $6 from the city. And so that way, folks like myself, who is a grassroots candidate, who's not coming from moneyed interests, who's not a long, established, political establishment person, can also be competitive in this race. And so folks who are listening, I do want to invite you to please consider donating to my campaign so that we can get those matching grants and be able to power my people-powered, volunteer-powered campaign. And you can match up to, match, the max matching rate is $257, and that will bring $1,800 in total to my campaign. So please consider giving. This is a way that we can be able to be competitive. And honestly, I've been so proud of what we've been building so far. So I encourage folks to come and join into the movement, and not just with their financial resources, but also volunteer.
Well, I think you're great. I think you're the best person running, and I hope that you I hope that we make viral clips of you. I loved seeing you on Hassan's stream. Hassan Piker, he got banned from Twitch for using the word Zionist, which is insane. What are we doing, people? But luckily, he streamed on YouTube, had record viewers that day, and that happened to be the day you were the guest. And I was so excited to see that. And the stream was you guys marching against ICE and marching to protect our immigrant neighbors. So I think you're the real deal. And let's get her on more freaking talk shows and shit. Because we need people to know who she is so that she can win, which she will. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much for this time. This is such a gift and an honor to be on your show. I'm a big fan.
Oh,
and
I'm
really
a fan
grateful.
of yours.
Thank you.
I'll see you at your comedy show tonight.
Yes. Amazing. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Turn it on!